Imagine a nation clawing its way out of chaos, and one man who dared to give it a soul, with nothing but a brush. His art didn't whisper. It roared. It challenged tyrants, celebrated the forgotten, and etched a revolution on the very walls of history. This is the story of Diego Rivera, the man who painted a country back to life. The year was 1921. The Mexican Revolution had ended, but the country was still in pieces, economically shattered, politically unstable, and spiritually lost. Millions had fought. Millions had died. And now, what did Mexico stand for? The streets of Mexico City buzzed with uncertainty. Vendors shouted, the air was thick with dust and hope, and mariachi strains floated faintly above the noise. It was a fragile moment, and in that silence after the storm, the government made a bold decision. They turned to artists, hoping their paint could bind wounds that bullets could not. Art became a weapon, and their mission was clear: create a new Mexican identity, one rooted in the people, their history, their dignity. Into this moment stepped Diego Rivera. Born in 1886 to a family of schoolteachers, he showed talent early. At 21, he left Mexico for Europe, immersing himself in the avant-garde movements of Paris and Madrid, absorbing the geometry of Cubism, the grandeur of Renaissance frescoes, the fire of political art. But when Rivera returned home, he brought something more powerful than technique. He brought a vision. A vision where art didn't hang in gilded frames for the rich, but towered on public walls for everyone. A vision where peasants, miners, mothers, and workers, faces history had ignored, would finally take their place as heroes. He climbed scaffolding in dusty courtyards, sketching, painting, breathing life into blank walls. You could smell the wet plaster, the pungent pigments, the sweat of men grinding colors under the relentless sun. Crowds gathered daily, their whispers filling the air as Rivera transformed walls into roaring declarations of identity. But dreams this bold don't come without enemies. Rivera's murals were not polite history lessons, they were battle cries. He painted revolutionaries as saints, the oppressed as giants, and the capitalist elite as villains. Zapata rode across walls with his white horse gleaming like a beacon. Workers raised rifles against tyranny, women pressed cartridges into their husbands' hands, and in the corners of these colossal works, Rivera carved his deepest convictions. In one mural, he placed Lenin, extending a hand to the working class, a symbol of solidarity that Rivera believed in fiercely. To Rivera, it was truth. To his patrons, it was dynamite. That image would cost him dearly. In 1933, Diego was invited to create a grand mural for the RCA building in Rockefeller Center, a temple of American capitalism. His design was ambitious: science, progress, unity of humankind. But at the center, Rivera dared to paint Lenin. The Rockefellers were outraged. Headlines blared across New York: communist art in Rockefeller Plaza. Negotiations broke down, and in the dead of night, Rivera's mural, months of labor, was hacked to dust. It was a brutal humiliation. Rivera was branded a traitor in the U.S., a dangerous radical in Mexico. Commissions dried up, friends turned away. But Diego didn't bend. "What do you think an artist is?" he said. "An imbecile who has only eyes, if he is a painter? No. An artist is a political being." Those words became his armor as he returned to Mexico, determined to finish what he started. Back in Mexico City, he threw himself into the walls of the Secretariat of Public Education building with renewed fury. There, Rivera created his masterpiece, the Corrido of the Agrarian Revolution. Imagine walking into that courtyard. The walls erupt in color, women handing rifles to farmers, men clutching red flags, children bent over books, their faces lit by the dawn of hope. It wasn't art for beauty's sake. It was revolution frozen in paint. Every stroke carried defiance, every shade burned with meaning. And the people knew it. Farmers, factory workers, school children gathered daily, craning their necks, pointing, whispering, "That's us," on the walls. Officials muttered nervously. One leaned toward Rivera and hissed, "This is too radical." You'll ignite unrest. Rivera didn't flinch. He dipped his brush, glanced down, and replied, "They deserve to see their own struggle on their own walls." His murals blurred the line between propaganda and poetry, truth and rebellion. To some, they were dangerous. To others, they were sacred. And for Rivera, they were everything, a way to turn history into flesh and blood, to shout on behalf of those who had been voiceless for centuries. Nearly a century later, time tested his vision. Earthquakes shook those walls. Politics tried to erase his colors. But they endured. In 2023, when a devastating quake scarred several frescoes, Mexico mourned as if it had lost a piece of its soul. People gathered, touching chipped paint as if it were bone. And then came hope. In 2024, restoration began. Painstaking hands brought back the fiery reds, the clenched fists, the eyes that glowed with stubborn defiance. And here's the twist. What began as a state-sponsored project became something else, a treasure that belonged not to governments, but to the people. Today, activists march beneath Rivera's murals, raising banners against inequality. Artists reinterpret his work to fight new battles: feminism, climate change, indigenous rights. Rivera's walls have become living things, still breathing, still shouting, still resisting. Diego Rivera proved that art is not a luxury. It's a necessity. A nation's mirror. A people's voice. A weapon in the hands of those who have none. So the next time you stand before one of his towering frescoes, look closer. You'll see more than color. You'll see more than paint. You'll see a revolution etched with blood, hope, and the relentless belief that walls can speak louder than bullets. Art, Rivera said, is not for the few. It is for all. And in the echo of those words, you can still hear the roar of a brush against plaster, still feel the heartbeat of a country painted into eternity.